Hello everybody, my name is Serious Gamer and welcome back to another 1 to 5 scale Minecraft memorial. Today is of course April 18th, 2022, which marks the 80th anniversary since the Doolittle raid on Tokyo, Japan during World War II. So here with me I have the fleet responsible for the raid on Doolittle on Tokyo, as well as a rather half-assed B-25 bomber. So you can take a look at that. Oh, podium area. I couldn't think of a lot to put, so all I have up here is just B-25. Before I get into this, I'd like to pay respect to the airmen responsible for the raid, including James Doolittle himself. So let's take a little bit for that. Alright. So, to start off, I'm going to read from the Wikipedia article. The Doolittle raid, also known as the Tokyo raid, was an air raid conducted on the 18th of April, 1942 by the United States on the Japanese capital, Tokyo, and other places on Honshu Island during World War II. It was the first air operation to strike the Japanese archipelago, although the air raid caused comparatively minor damage. It demonstrated that the Japanese mainland was vulnerable to American air attacks. It served as the retaliation for the December 7, 1941 Pearl Harbor attack and provided an important boost for American morale. The raid was planned and led by and named after Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle, later Lieutenant General in the U.S. Army Air Forces and the U.S. Air Force Reserve. Under the final plan, 16 B-25 Mitchell medium bombers, each with 5, were launched from the U.S. Navy aircraft carrier USS Hornet in the Pacific Ocean off Japan. There was to be no fighter escort after bombing the military and industrial targets in Japan. The B-25 crews were to continue westward and to land in China. The raid on Japan killed about 50 people and injured 400, including civilians. Damage to Japanese military and industrial targets was minimal, but the raid had major psychological effects. In the United States, it raised morale. In Japan, it raised fear and doubt about the ability of military leaders to defend the home islands. But the bombing and strafing of civilians also steeled Japan. The Japanese resolved to gain retribution, and this was exploited for propaganda purposes. It also pushed forward Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's plans to attack Midway Island in the Central Pacific, an attack that turned into a decisive defeat for the Imperial Japanese Navy by the U.S. Navy in the Battle of Midway. The consequences were most severely felt in China, where Japanese reprisals caused the deaths of 250,000 civilians and 70,000 soldiers. Of the 16 USAAF crews involved, 14 complete crews of 5 returned to the United States or to U.S. forces somewhere else, except one who was killed in action. 8 aviators were captured by the Japanese forces in eastern China, and 3 of these were later executed. All but one of the B-25s were destroyed in crashes, while the 16th landed in Vladivostok in the Soviet Union. Because the Soviet Union was not officially at war with Japan, it was required under international law to intern the bomber's crew for the duration of the war, and their B-25 was confiscated. However, within a year, the crew was secretly allowed to leave the Soviet Union under the guise of an escape, and they returned to the United States or U.S. units elsewhere by way of Allied occupation of Iran and North Africa. Doolittle initially believed that the loss of all his aircraft would lead to his court-martial, but instead he received the Medal of Honor and was promoted 2 ranks to brigadier general. So, there's that. The fight was supported on the American side by 16 B-25 medium Mitchell bombers, 80 airmen, 52 of officers, and 28 enlisted. 2 aircraft carriers, 4 cruisers, and 8 destroyers. Of that, 3 dead, 8 POWs, 4 lived to be rescued, and 4 died in captivity, 3 executed, 1 by disease. In all, 16 B-25s lost. For Japan, an unknown number of Kawasaki Ki-61 Hind fighters and anti-aircraft artillery. 50 losses, 400 injured, 5 sailors captured, 5 patrol boats sunk, 3 aircraft shot down, claimed by the U.S., and 1 nearly converted aircraft carrier, the IJN Ryuho, was damaged. So not really all that much was accomplished other than, I guess, a morale boost for the United States and not as much for Japan. But, you know, it also showed that if you fuck with the United States, we will come at you and we will destroy you. Well, World War II at least. Nowadays it can't be crap. But, anyway. Here's my design for the B-25 Mitchell bombers. Not the best, but if you'd like to see a tutorial for it, I guess you can let me know. I might get to it. I might be busy, but oh well. Moving on to the fleet, you have the star of the show, the USS Hornet, Series 8, accompanied by her sister aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise. Now, these are both a new design compared with my old model that I currently have a tutorial for. This time with more accurate hangar and stuff. This is more camouflage. Of course, the USS Enterprise not wearing any camouflage whatsoever. Although the reason she was present was to provide air support for her sister USS Hornet, as because the B-25 covering her deck, she had no air support whatsoever because all of her aircraft were tied up inside of the hangar. Accompanying them were the heavy cruisers USS Vincennes, the New Orleans class, USS Northampton, lead ship of the class, and the USS Pensacola, Salt Lake City, of the Pensacola class destroyers, not destroyers, cruisers. And those were accompanied by the light cruiser USS Nashville, of the Brooklyn class. And for destroyers, I don't remember these classes. We have USS Fanning, and the USS Falk. The USS Ellett, and the USS Benham, and these are all Mahan class for Benson class. The USS Meredith, USS Yemen, USS Drayton, and the USS Memphis was for escort and on the refueling fleet, comprised of 2 oilers, the USS I think I got the name wrong. I think Neosho was present, not Simran. Doolittle raid on Japan. Nope. Simran leads the class, and then one of her many sisters, the USS Sabine, Sabin. I don't know how to pronounce that. But yeah. I was going to rebuild my USS Essex for this because one of these ships in the class, the USS Shangri-La, was named after the raid. But, yeah, like I said earlier, despite being a successful raid, most of the airmen were unable to make it back or into Allied territories because their fleet was unfortunately spotted by an Imperial Japanese picket boat. And while the picket boat was destroyed by National guns, we still had enough time to get a message out to the Japanese, so they had to launch the aircraft right there. Um, um, but yeah, other than just like a morale boost for the United States, we didn't really accomplish as much as the Pearl Harbor did to the Japanese. But there's also an example of you just don't mess with the United States. So yeah, that is my memorial for the Caesar raid on Tokyo, Japan. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all at least maybe there's something here that you guys want to see, maybe. As a future video here soon. I haven't been the most active on here for a while, so I'm gonna try to pick that up. So yeah, without further ado, my name is Serious Gamer, building several memorials for the